thought I would just be sitting today. I probably should have worn my sunglasses, so I'm squinting a little bit. But July 4th, 2019, George Webb in Annapolis reporting. And a lot of folks are kind of piling on the Oleg Deripaska story, saying I told you so and all that. And I just want to make sure, I don't really care about the getting credit or whatever, but I just want to make sure that people know about the story. It's John Solomon. He's talking about a $20 million payment going from Oleg Deripaska to Andy McCabe as a kickback to pay for spies. They have tried to make it look like there is a negative relationship between Paul Manafort and Oleg Deripaska, and nothing could be further from the truth. It's important to understand the weapons channel. The weapons channel goes from Paul Manafort through his assistant, Konstantin Killimnik, to Oleg Deripaska, who is basically figuring out where we should deploy forces. And here we got forces coming in now. I don't know if those are any of Paul Whelan's pilots or not from the Russian Air Force, but we want to make sure we recruit some of those with a thumb drive next time we go by Red Square. You have folks like Prigozhin, the Putin chef, who's really more a weapons chef, organizing the Wagner force, Wagner group, to go down and take the land. So I want to really hammer home the fact that the Butinas are the energy spies that are going in to basically infiltrate into various organizations where there's either defense secrets, like DARPA type secrets, defense secrets, or intellectual property. Sometimes chemical weapons, sometimes just, the next fentanyl recipe or whatever. People may remember I interviewed a person from Russia not a couple of days ago or a day ago, and she was from Izhevsk, sort of like if you were talking to your comrade captain, and he said, "Why are you dropping your machine gun, your AK-47?" And you would say, Izhevsk. Izhevsk is the headquarters, and the company identified here is Kislyak. Kislyak has representation, again, through intermediaries here where I'm sitting in Annapolis, Maryland. You don't need to have Russian accountants and so forth from Izhevsk if you're not representing through cutouts Kislyak. And we've talked about diplomatic freight services and diplomatic fuel services. We've talked about their very close connection to Antonov Airlines. And a little bit of a correction, Antonov Airlines seems to be the weapons runner, also the fuel runner if you're dealing in conflict energy. And I believe Mike Flynn flew on an Antonov AN-124, this largest cargo plane in the world. But he flew on Volga Dnepr Airlines, who are in a lot of 50-50 joint ventures for airlifting both things for the nuclear industry as well as for oil and gas industry, as well as weapons, like things like helicopters and jeeps and so forth. And again, it's very covert if the jeep or the tank or whatever, or the helicopter flies inside of a AN-124 on a Antonov Guppy. Someone who had been in the Iraq conflict had said that they had seen them go into Balad Air Force Base near Baghdad for a lot of the troop movement and weapons movement for NATO. Again, Russian crime boss Oleg Deripaska reports in as he's sort of the energy boss, the energy oligarch, reporting into that crime organization, which is the Odessa crime organization. They're flying NATO weapons. Into Baghdad. Again, that was told to me by somebody who was there yesterday. So trying to piece together this trip that Mike Flynn took, where he had encrypted communications. He was talking with, we know he was talking with Kislyak, but when did he start talking with Kislyak with an encrypted Blackberry? Where did he get the encrypted Blackberry from? I've proffered that Dimitri Alperovich, when I worked with him at McAfee, we bought PGP, and there is a PGP version that is used by the Odessa crime gang, if you will. So I proffered that was the actual encryption. I don't know if that's going to be Imran's eventual encryption or not, but I believe the The way it worked was the Russians did the weapons, the Kalashnikovs, and the Pakistanis picked up the ammo in 2011 through Imran. Maybe it was earlier than that through Imran's dad. Don't know if Imran just had the fentanyl and so forth. We don't have all the answers. We don't know who Anthony's trusted staff was yet. But let's go back to encrypted communications. First of all, Antonov, Volga Dnipro Airlines, the airline that Mike Flynn flew on, was close to the Ukrainian border, but it's still a Russian company. Still a Russian company. If you look at actually the Rosatom plant, I believe there's 3 lines of business basically that they could have taken Mike Flynn through. Line number 1 is the uranium line. That's the line that it's top secret. You read the person into, you take them over to the GRU, show them the Rosatom facilities, that sort of thing, which would be, understandable if he was going to be selling nuclear power plants, which he was. If you remember, he presented the next year through the ACU and IP3 plan, he presented to 6 different nations for 45 different nuclear power plants. Again, you would expect that he would have gotten the encrypted communications in 2013 when he went to Moscow. But if you look at, I call him Joltin' Joe Colvin. If you look at Joltin' Joe Colvin, who is the person who seems to be very close to the nuclear industry here in Annapolis. He's the person who's running the Nuclear Energy Institute, so he's the head of all the people in the United States that have reactors. He seems to be very closely associated with transport logistics, and Urenco, his daughter's the CEO of Urenco. That's where the exfiltration through Pakistan and AQ Kwan, where all the secrets seem to go and all the nuclear technology seems to go. The nuclear reactors seem to be made in Russia. So the plans seem to go through Pakistan and the reactors seem to go through Russia. And if you look at when Dimitri Alperovich and his hacking team came into the United States, they come in 1993 to Pittsburgh, and I believe they targeted Westinghouse. They basically steal business. Alperovich's team stole business from Westinghouse till it lost a lot of business and got peeled off basically to Russia and Ukraine, and then they bought it back. So they went back into a joint venture. But if you look at the Rosatom plant, if you look at I'm getting to where I think Flynn went when he got read into the program, just south of Moscow, not far from where in between Ukraine and Moscow, not far from there, the Rosatom plant is where they're building the Westinghouse knockoff modular reactors. The reason why you want a modular reactor is you can fly this thing in with an Antonov Guppy type airplane and pretty quickly get a nuclear reactor going, where in the old days it took a long time, long lead times, okay? So Battelle and Bechtel love those long lead times. They love all the money that came from the Department of Energy for those extremely long lead times. But now you want to take that technology, you want to take that, if you're Joltin' Joe Colvin, you want to take that technology and now exfiltrate it somewhere to a partner who can make it cheaply, and you're in control. You have all the knowledge. You know who all the customers are. You know who the diplomats are. You run the diplomat group. All right, you know where to sell the fuel rods. All the fuel rods that you're going to sell this to, all the people are not only went to the Navy Academy with you and were handpicked by Rickover to run nuclear subs, to then run nuclear power plants. So it's a very closed group. It's almost like a little green bowl, if you will. There's a green, sorry about that. I'm broadcasting live, so please don't call right now. If you did have this little green bowl society, you could, basically control all the nuclear reactors in the United States. But how about internationally? Well, if you bring them into the Navy War College, and again, these organizations seem to be very closely associated with the Navy War College, bringing people in from the DIAs of different intelligence agencies from around the world to Rhode Island. Again, that would be why you would want Mike Flynn. That would be why you would want Bruce and Nellie Orr, who is from Oak Ridge National Laboratories. Nellie Orr speaking Russian, okay? And then you would want to inculcate in them, hey, we can be your diplomatic group. If you join our diplomatic group, you agree to buy out, it's sort of like being a McDonald's franchisee. You agree to buy our shakes and fries and chicken and whatnot. and will continue to support you in your elections. Our CIA will continue to support you in your elections. And it really is a franchise. The 1,400 people in the Frank Juster partnership is one of these three lines of business, I believe. And the nuclear line, or the nuclear group, is about a third. The two groups I don't think they told Mike Flynn about with encrypted communications is one, weapons, which is the flow of weapons. That's Bijan Kiana's business partner. Again, from Hevsky. It's Hevsky. My AK-47 is Hevsky. Hevsky is where the Kalashnikov Museum is. Started by Alexander I, a long time ago, Tsar Alexander I, so before Stalin and so forth. Is Hevsky. I don't know if it was because the communists controlled Moscow. I don't know why. But anyway, Hevsky. That's line two. That's business line two. I guess sort of like McDonald's doing burgers, McDonald's doing, branching out into chicken and then doing McRib, I guess, I mean, and I think drugs is three. Drugs is three, and that's the Pakistani route. Weapons is two, and I believe Hevsky is going to be the place. And again, the way I think Flynn gets roped into this is they give him the encrypted communications, they have him meet with Kislyak, they have him go visit the plant, the Rosatom plant just south of Moscow. They have him go visit the Volga-Dnieper Airlines to show him how to transport this thing. Because what you're going to be selling, you want to know, hey, I walked through the plant, I saw how it was built. Now I went to the Volga-Dnieper Airlines factory and they showed me how to load this thing. They showed me how we flew it in to a place wherever there was a reactor going in. I think UAE was putting in a reactor right about that time. So I'm saying UAE was probably the place they flew. And, you go through the cycle. You go through the cycle in 2013 of how to build a reactor, and then you say in 2014, okay, I'm ready to, present this. I'll add my expertise to protecting this, how I would create a zone of information, a green zone around this thing, and protect it, right? That would be Mike Flynn's value added. That would be IP3's value added. That would be ACU's value added. And again, there's no dispute here that he made the presentations with Bijan Kian. So this is very important. And there's no dispute here that Alan Copson, who, and then Stephen Rowe is going to be involved in this, are going to be two of the key people that are kind of circulating between South Africa and Oxford in terms of selling these deals. These are all coming from the mercantile part of London, is kind of the operation control here for this energy, especially this conflict energy. Okay, so I want to explain in my mind until Mike Flynn has a chance. I want to go through the metadata and explain how Flynn got entrapped in this thing, and I want to be very clear about it. I want to be very clear that there's three lines of business, 1, 2, 3. It's a 1, 2, 3 drop box with Imran 1 terabytes to Pakistan. I want to say that Flynn was brought into number one. Oleg Deripaska is not only uranium, but he's also weapons, and he's also going to be drugs. Now, I think Vera Pharma, as I had said before, I believe there's operatives at NIH. I believe Julie Swetnick did their passports, and at the Department of Energy and several other places, State Department and so forth. And I do believe that there is an active project through the Library of Congress to get drug molecule definitions, and Vera Pharma does do generics. I just definitely think there's an industrial espionage program going on there with the drug business. Now, I'm not saying illegal drugs. I'm saying generics or small molecule changes to other FDA applications. That's why FDA applications take 10 years to give the Russians time to develop a generic so that it's ready to go. Or the Indians played that role, or the Pakistanis, Tech Mahindra, Ibrahim plays that role. So the sun's coming up, so it's getting a little bit sunny here. I just wanted to be very clear. This Antonov Airlines is the airline of the UN. It is the airline of USAID. It is the airline of Rosatom. It is the airline of Interpipe, which is Victor Pinchuk's company with the pipelines. So this is not speculation, and this is going to come out. These encrypted communications are going to come out. I do believe it's Dimitri Alperovich with the PGP version that was developed. It's called Blackberry UEM on an iPhone. And we'll see if it's true or not. We'll see if it's true or not. Everything else in the story is Crowdstrike. Everything else in the story is Crowdstrike with the DNC and the DCCC and Imran one. Why wouldn't Imran also, for his Blackberries that he's configuring, be taught by Crowdstrike, the people who were the IT provider and the IT auditor for the DNC and the DCCC? It just makes sense. And we've said that for 2 years. Again, Oleg Deripaska is a hair-pulling exercise when he sues Paul Manafort in 2015. They're trying to make it look like you only have to spend $400 for a lawsuit. It makes it look like you're not friends, right? Oleg Deripaska is not. Oleg Deripaska is not. Has been a weapons broker for the Khashoggi Manafort channel for a long time. Of course, we talked about the Saudis. We talked about the conflict energy. We talked about Aramco. We talked about Sempra. The development yesterday. The father is Stephen Hancock, the father of the gal who died in the kayak accident, the drowning. He was in the FBI. He was in the FBI before Sempra. He was a Marine before that. I think he got to a captain or colonel or major, fairly high rank, from what I was told by the guy who is the flight operations officer on Air Force One. Pretty high rank, pretty intimidating guy, like Ollie North type of guy. But he was with the FBI for a number of years, over a decade. And I know people, that's going to fuel speculation that say, oh, well, she was put into the Trump detail. She was put into the Trump detail for spying. Hey, she's right there with him at the G20 and the G8, with Kislyak and Putin and all your favorite players, Lavrov and all the gang. I'm not there yet, but I am there with Sempra Energy doing lots of funny deals in terms of remarketing and overcharging for gas and then storage systems. I also think there's recovery systems. The Russian girls, Krylova and Bogacheva, were trained in this flow sort of system where you could actually recover gas on site from oil drilling operations. They used to just burn it off. They used to just burn off they call it off-gassing, and it's bad for the environment. And there's a way to trap it, to turn it into LNG. And I did a couple of videos about the company, and that's what Krylova and Bogacheva seem to be experts in. Again, that's a Louisiana offshore pipeline. That's Louisiana Energy. Who's Louisiana Energy? It's Urenco again. Oh, okay, back to Jolton Joe Colvin. So anyway, I found the link to sell Kalashnikovs here in Annapolis. I do believe it's Kalashnikov. Hevsk, where the museum is Hevsk, and I do believe that's a connection to diplomatic freight, fuel, construction, all these businesses that are so connected with Anatov Airlines. Again, very connected with USAID, very connected with NATO, very connected with the UN. It's all those things, and we haven't found Rodenhouse yet. We've only found that one picture of Joe Rodenhouse. Again, we're on the money. We're in the right spot. We're drilling down in the right place. That's the key. Okay, thanks everybody. I appreciate you watching the channel. Keep digging. More comes out every day, it seems like. Our General Hayward, or Harward, like Harvard, only Harward, is also an interesting character, a rear admiral, who's in the Nowruz Foundation, very close to this Verderam, Kristen Verderam. Again, Kristen Verderam's company, Laconia, does CFIUS approvals. Again, if we stay on this nuclear thing, we're always going to be right with the first business. The second business, the weapons follow that channel to get the land. Third is they always seem to follow up with some kind of drug business to pay for the weapons, legal or illegal. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate. Have a happy 4th of July.